Interstate 40 stretched out like a black ribbon under the scorching Arizona sun. The asphalt shimmered with heat waves, and the distant mountains stood like silent witnesses to what was about to unfold. It was 3:47 in the afternoon when the first motorcycle appeared on the horizon. Then another, and another. Within minutes, a wall of chrome and leather materialized across all 4 lanes of the highway. 100 motorcycles, their engines rumbling like distant thunder, forming a blockade that brought traffic to a complete standstill. Horns blared, drivers shouted. Some reached for their phones to call the police, but the bikers didn't move. They stood there, arms crossed, faces hidden behind dark sunglasses and bandanas, creating an impenetrable barrier. Behind them, something was happening, something the world couldn't see yet. The lead biker, a man they called Reaper, raised his fist in the air. The engines fell silent. In that moment of sudden quiet, you could hear it, the faint sound of a child crying somewhere beyond that wall of steel and leather. And that's when everyone realized this wasn't about causing chaos. This was about preventing something far worse. 6 months earlier, Marcus Reaper Donovan was just another name in the Iron Brotherhood MC, a club that had ruled the highways of the Southwest for 30 years. At 42, Reaper had seen it all. He'd earned his road name the hard way, pulling brothers back from the edge of death more times than he could count. His arms bore the scars of crashes, fights, and the kinds of mistakes that made you either quit riding or ride harder. The Iron Brotherhood wasn't one of those clubs you saw in magazines, all polished chrome and weekend warriors playing dress-up. This was an outlaw club in the truest sense. They had their own code, their own justice system, their own way of handling problems that society couldn't or wouldn't touch. Law enforcement kept their distance, partly out of respect, partly out of fear. Reaper lived in a 1-bedroom apartment above a motorcycle repair shop in Flagstaff. The walls were bare except for a single photograph, a picture of a little girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. His daughter, Emma, she would have been 12 now. Would have been. Past tense. That's all Reaper allowed himself to think about her. Past tense. Because present tense was too painful. Emma died in a car accident 5 years ago. A drunk driver ran a red light and took her from him in an instant. The driver got 18 months in county jail. 18 months for stealing a life that hadn't even begun. After that, Reaper understood something fundamental about the world. The system wasn't built to deliver justice. It was built to manage paperwork. That's when he joined the Brotherhood. They understood. They knew that sometimes justice wore a leather vest instead of a black robe. The clubhouse was an old warehouse on the outskirts of town, converted into something that felt more like home than any house Reaper had ever lived in. Pool tables, a bar, bikes in various states of repair, and brothers who would die for each other without asking why. The president was a man they called Prophet, 60 years old, gray beard down to his chest, eyes that had seen everything and judged nothing. "You're still carrying her with you," Prophet told Reaper one night as they sat outside, watching the sun set over the desert. "Emma," Reaper took a long pull from his beer. "Every day, that weight you're carrying, it's going to break you or change you. Your choice, which one?" Reaper didn't respond. He didn't have an answer yet. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late August. Reaper was at the shop, elbow deep in a carburetor rebuild, when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "This Reaper?" The voice was female, young, scared. "Who's asking?" My name is Sarah Mitchell. You don't know me, but I need help." "The kind of help the cops can't give." Reaper wiped his hands on a rag. "I'm not in the helping business. It's about my daughter. She's 7 years old, and her father took her. He's not supposed to have her. There's a restraining order, but he doesn't care. He sent me a message saying he's leaving the state, and if I call the police, I'll never see Lily again." Reaper felt something tighten in his chest. "Call the cops anyway. That's what they're for." "I did," her voice cracked. "They said they'd put out an alert, but it could take days to find them. He's already a 5-hour head start. By the time they locate him, he could be in Mexico. I'll lose her forever." "Why are you calling me?" "Because my brother was in a motorcycle club before he died. He always said if I was ever in real trouble, the kind where the law was too slow, I should find the Iron Brotherhood. He said they understood things other people didn't. Reaper closed his eyes. He could see Emma's face that last morning when he dropped her off at school. The way she'd hugged him and said, "Love you, Daddy." He'd been too distracted checking his phone, and he'd just patted her head and said, "You too, kiddo." Not even looking at her. If he'd known it was the last time, he would have held her forever. "What's your brother's name?" "That Tommy Mitchell. He rode with the Desert Rats out of Phoenix." Reaper knew the club. Good people. They'd folded 3 years ago after their president got killed in a highway accident. "I remember Tommy, good rider. I'm sorry for your loss. Will you help me?" Every instinct told Reaper to hang up. The club had rules about getting involved in domestic situations. Too messy, too many legal complications. But then he thought about Emma again, about how the system had failed her, failed him, about how some kids didn't have time for paperwork and proper procedures. "Where are you?" Sarah Mitchell lived in a small house on the south side of Flagstaff. When Reaper arrived, she was standing on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, like she was trying to hold the pieces together. She was maybe 30, with dark circles under her eyes and the kind of exhaustion that went deeper than just lack of sleep. Inside, she showed him everything. The restraining order against her ex-husband, David. The documented history of abuse, photos of bruises, police reports, hospital records. The custody agreement that gave him supervised visitation only. The text messages from this morning. "She's mine now. Try to find us. He's heading east on I-40, Sarah said. That's all I know. He disabled the GPS on Lily's phone, but she managed to send me one message before he found it. She's scared, and she's alone with a man who's been drinking since 10 this morning." Reaper studied the photo of Lily. Dark curls, shy smile, clutching a stuffed rabbit. 7 years old. The same age Emma had been. Has he hurt her before? Sarah's silence was answer enough. Reaper called Prophet. They met at the clubhouse an hour later. 15 members of the Iron Brotherhood, standing around a table covered in maps and printouts. Prophet listened to the whole story without interrupting, his face unreadable. "We're not a rescue service," one of the younger members said. "This is between her and her ex. Let the cops handle it." "The cops won't get there in time," Reaper said. "By the time they coordinate across state lines, this guy will be ghost, and that little girl will disappear with him." Prophet stroked his beard. "Marcus, I understand what you're feeling. I know why this matters to you. But the club has rules. We don't get involved in custody disputes. This isn't a custody dispute. It's a kidnapping. In the eyes of the law, he's her father. They're going to see this as a domestic issue, not a federal crime. And if we insert ourselves into this situation, we're the ones who'll end up in cuffs." Reaper slammed his hand on the table. "So we do nothing. We sit here and let this happen. I'm saying we need to be smart." Prophet looked around at the other members. "How many of you have kids?" 8 hands went up. "And how many of you would want someone to help if they were in danger?" The hands stayed up. Prophet nodded slowly. "Here's what we're going to do. This is voluntary. Anyone who rides on this mission is making a personal choice, not a club decision. We're not wearing our colors. We're not representing the Brotherhood. We're just a group of concerned citizens who happen to ride motorcycles and happen to care about kids." "Understood. Understood," they said in unison. "Reaper, you're in charge. You've got 4 hours before dark. Make it count." They assembled on the highway just outside Flagstaff. 25 riders at first, then word spread and more kept coming. By the time they rolled out, there were 53 motorcycles, and they were all heading east on Interstate 40, searching for a silver Honda Accord with Colorado plates. Reaper split them into groups, spread across 50 miles of highway. They had spotters at every major exit, eyes on every rest stop and gas station. They were a network, communicating through helmet radios, coordinating like a military operation. At 2:15 p.m., one of the riders called it in. "Got a silver Accord at the Winslow rest area. Colorado plates. There's a man in the driver's seat and a small figure in the back." Reaper's heart kicked into overdrive. "Don't approach. Just watch. We're 10 minutes out. Those 10 minutes felt like hours." Reaper's mind raced through every possible scenario. What if David saw them coming and ran? What if he had a weapon? What if Lily got caught in the crossfire? When they arrived at the rest area, David was standing next to his car, talking on his phone. Through the rear window, Reaper could see Lily, small, scared, pressed against the door like she was trying to make herself invisible. "Easy," Prophet's voice came through the radio. He'd followed despite saying he wouldn't. "We're not vigilantes. We're here to keep that girl safe until the authorities arrive." But Reaper knew they didn't have time. He could see David getting agitated on the phone, pacing, glancing at his watch. He was planning to run again. Reaper made a decision. He walked across the parking lot, direct and deliberate. David saw him coming and ended the call. "Can I help you?" David said, his voice tight. "I think you can. See, I'm a friend of Sarah's, and I think it's time Lily went home." David's face hardened. "I don't know who you are, but this is none of your business. That's my daughter in that car. Your daughter with a restraining order against you. Your daughter you're not supposed to be alone with. Your daughter you kidnapped this morning. Get away from my car." Reaper glanced at Lily through the window. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. And suddenly he wasn't standing in a rest area in Arizona. He was back in that hospital 5 years ago, looking at Emma's broken body, listening to doctors tell him there was nothing they could do. He was remembering every moment he'd failed to protect her, every second he'd wasted not telling her how much she meant to him. "No," Reaper said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere." David reached for the car door. Reaper moved faster, blocking him. They faced each other for a long moment, and Reaper saw it in the other man's eyes. Desperation mixed with something darker. Violence waiting to happen. That's when the other motorcycles started arriving. One by one, they pulled into the rest area, forming a circle around David's car. 10 bikes, 20, 30. They kept coming, engines rumbling, riders stepping off and standing shoulder to shoulder. David's bravado crumbled. "What is this?" "This," Reaper said, "is what happens when you threaten a child. These people, they're here because they believe kids deserve protection, and they're not leaving until Lily is safe." David tried to get in his car, but the bikes had boxed him in. He pulled out his phone to call for help, but there was no cell service. The desert had dead zones everywhere, and this happened to be one of them. He was trapped, and he knew it. "You can't do this," David shouted. "This is illegal. You're holding me prisoner." "We're not holding anyone," Prophet said, stepping forward. "You're free to walk away any time you want. But your car stays here until the police arrive. And Lily stays with us. She's my daughter. She's a scared little girl who needs her mother." Reaper moved toward the car. "And I'm not letting you take her another mile." David lunged at him. It was clumsy, desperate, the move of a man who'd run out of options. Reaper sidestepped easily and caught him in a hold, pressing him against the car. The other bikers closed in, not threatening, just present, a wall of leather and resolve. "Listen to me," Reaper said, his voice low. "I had a daughter once. She was about Lily's age. And I lost her because someone made a selfish, stupid decision. Someone who thought their needs mattered more than her safety. I can't bring Emma back, but I can make sure Lily gets to grow up with people who love her." Something in Reaper's voice must have reached David, because he stopped struggling. "You don't understand," he said, and now he was crying. "Sarah won't let me see her. I haven't seen my daughter in 3 months. 3 months. I just wanted time with her. Then you go through the courts. You follow the process. You don't traumatize a 7-year-old kid by kidnapping her." "I didn't know what else to do." Reaper released him and stepped back. "You call a lawyer. You get help. You prove you're a father worth having. But this," he gestured at the car, at Lily's tear-stained face. "This is just damage. Damage that kid will carry for the rest of her life." One of the bikers approached, a woman named Raven, who rode a custom Harley and worked as a child psychologist during the day. She opened the car door slowly, carefully. "Hey, sweetie, my name is Raven. Your mom sent us to bring you home. Is that okay?" Lily nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Can you come with me? You're safe now. I promise." The little girl climbed out of the car and took Raven's hand. David reached for her, but Prophet stepped between them. "Don't. You've done enough." By this point, more bikers had arrived, hearing about the situation through the network. There were nearly 100 motorcycles now, all surrounding that rest area like a fortress. And that's when Reaper had the idea. We need to get her back to Flagstaff, he said. But David's probably got friends looking for him. People who might try to stop us. Prophet understood immediately. You want to make it impossible to stop us. I want to make sure Lily gets home safe, no matter what. They made the call to local law enforcement, explaining the situation and their route. The police weren't happy about civilians taking matters into their own hands, but they agreed to meet them at a designated point, the junction where I-40 crossed Highway 89, about 40 miles west. That's when the plan took shape. They would form a convoy, with Lily in the middle vehicle, a van driven by Raven, and surrounding that van would be 100 motorcycles, creating a moving blockade that nothing could penetrate. At 3:30 p.m., they began the journey back. The motorcycles arranged themselves in perfect formation, rows upon rows of bikes, engines synchronized, creating a sound like rolling thunder across the desert. Lily sat in the van, wrapped in a blanket, still scared, but starting to understand that these rough-looking strangers were there to protect her. As they approached the junction, Reaper radioed ahead to the others. This is going to draw attention, lot of it. People are going to see this and wonder what's happening. But we hold formation. We don't stop for anything, except the police checkpoint. That's when things got complicated. Word had spread somehow, maybe through social media, maybe through police scanners. By the time the convoy reached the open highway, there were news helicopters overhead, cameras filming from above, reporters in vehicles trying to keep pace, and then David's brother appeared, driving a pickup truck with 4 other men, trying to intercept the convoy. They came up fast from behind, honking, trying to force their way into the formation. Reaper saw them coming. Tighten up! Don't let them through. The motorcycles closed ranks, making it impossible for the truck to penetrate. David's brother tried forcing his way between 2 bikes, but the riders held firm, their machines so close together there wasn't an inch to spare. The truck fell back frustrated. That's when they blocked the highway completely. It wasn't planned. It just happened organically. The convoy reached a section of I-40 where traffic was heavy in both directions, and the motorcycles spread out, occupying all 4 lanes. They slowed down to 20 miles per hour, creating a moving barrier that brought everything to a standstill. Horns blared. Drivers shouted. Some people got out of their cars, demanding to know what was going on. But the bikers didn't respond. They just kept riding, maintaining that impenetrable formation around the van carrying Lily. From above, the news helicopters captured it all. 100 motorcycles stopping traffic on a major interstate highway. It looked like chaos. It looked like lawlessness. But inside that formation, a 7-year-old girl was finally breathing easier, finally believing she might actually be safe. The police were waiting at the junction, just as promised. A dozen patrol cars, lights flashing, forming their own barrier. The convoy came to a stop, engines falling silent one by one. In the sudden quiet, you could hear the desert wind and the distant hum of helicopter blades. Reaper dismounted and walked to the van. Raven opened the door, and Lily looked up at him with those wide, frightened eyes. You're going to be okay now, Reaper said softly. Your mom is waiting for you just up ahead. See that police car? They're going to take you to her. Are you going to get in trouble? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reaper smiled. Maybe, but you're worth it. Thank you for saving me. And that's when it hit him, the full weight of what they'd just done. They hadn't just rescued one little girl. They'd proved something Prophet had tried to tell him months ago. That weight he was carrying, Emma's memory, it didn't have to break him. It could change him. It could drive him to protect the kids who still had a chance. Sarah came running from one of the police cars, tears streaming down her face. She swept Lily into her arms, holding her like she'd never let go. Thank you, she said to Reaper, to all of them. Thank you so much. The police detained David and his brother. There would be charges: kidnapping, violation of a restraining order, reckless endangerment. The system would handle it from here. But this time, the system got the chance to work because 100 people on motorcycles decided a child's safety mattered more than rules or convenience or staying out of trouble. One of the state troopers approached Reaper. "You know we could arrest all of you for blocking a federal highway?" "Yes, sir." "We know." The trooper looked at the formation of bikes, at the riders standing silent and resolute, at the little girl in her mother's arms. He sighed. "Get off my highway, all of you, and don't ever pull something like this again." "Yes, sir." As the convoy dispersed, riders peeling off in different directions, Reaper stayed behind for a moment. He watched Sarah buckle Lily into her car seat, watched them drive away toward home and safety, and a future that almost got stolen. Prophet rode up beside him. "You did good, brother. We all did. No, you did. You turned your pain into purpose. That's the hardest thing any of us ever do." Reaper thought about Emma, about the photograph on his wall, about all the things he couldn't change. But he also thought about Lily, safe now because someone decided to act instead of just feeling helpless. "It doesn't bring her back," Reaper said quietly. "No, but it honors her. And maybe that's what justice really looks like. Not revenge, not anger, just making sure other kids get the chance yours didn't." The story hit the news within hours. Headlines everywhere. 100 motorcyclists block highway and child rescue. Videos of the convoy went viral, millions of views, thousands of comments. Some people called them heroes. Others called them vigilantes. Law enforcement was split, publicly condemning the illegal blockade while privately admitting it probably saved Lily's life. The Iron Brotherhood faced scrutiny, investigations, questions about whether they'd crossed a line between helping and taking the law into their own hands. But no charges were filed. The district attorney took one look at the evidence: a documented kidnapping, a terrified child, a coordinated rescue that ended without violence, and decided the public wouldn't support prosecuting the people who'd risked everything to protect an innocent kid. Reaper went back to his apartment, to his quiet life above the repair shop. But something had changed. That photograph of Emma on the wall didn't hurt quite as much to look at anymore. He could see her smile and feel something other than just grief. He could feel purpose. Sarah called him a week later. "I wanted you to know, Lily's doing better. She still has nightmares, but she's talking about what happened. Her therapist says she's resilient. She's going to be okay." "That's good. That's really good." She asked if the motorcycle man was going to visit her again. "I think you made an impression," Reaper smiled. "Tell her I'm around if she ever needs anything." "I will." "And Reaper, what you all did, it gave me faith again. Faith that there are still good people who do the right thing, even when it's hard." After the call ended, Reaper sat on his balcony, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of orange and red. Prophet's words echoed in his mind. "That weight you're carrying, it's going to break you or change you." He'd chosen change. He'd chosen to take the worst thing that ever happened to him and turn it into something that mattered. Emma's death would always be a scar on his soul. But now it was also a reminder that every child deserved protection, that every parent deserved a chance to hold their kid safe, that sometimes justice required people to step up even when it was dangerous or unpopular or outside the lines of what was strictly legal. The Iron Brotherhood continued riding. They never officially took credit for what happened that day on I-40, but word spread anyway. And something interesting started happening. Other people in trouble, people who'd fallen through the cracks of the system, started reaching out. Not for violence or revenge, but for help, for protection, for the kind of justice that wore leather instead of robes. They didn't say yes to everyone. They couldn't. But when a case involved kids, when the system was too slow or too broken to act, when someone innocent needed protection right now, not next week or next month, that's when the Brotherhood rode, because that's what it means to live by a code. Not just loyalty to your brothers, but responsibility to the people who can't protect themselves. That's what separates an outlaw club from just a gang of criminals. Purpose, honor, the understanding that real strength means using your power to shield the vulnerable, not exploit them. Reaper kept that photograph of Emma on his wall, but next to it he added something new, A drawing Lily had made, delivered by Sarah. It showed a little girl holding hands with a man on a motorcycle, both of them smiling. At the top, in careful letters, it said, "Thank you for saving me. 2 lives connected across tragedy. 2 children, 1 lost, 1 saved. And 1 man who learned that the worst pain of his life could become the greatest gift he ever gave." That's the miracle 100 motorcyclists performed on Interstate 40, not just stopping traffic, not just rescuing a child, but proving that even in a broken world, even when the system fails, there are still people willing to stand between the innocent and harm. People who will block highways and risk arrest and put everything on the line because they understand something fundamental about being human. Some things matter more than rules. Some things matter more than convenience. Some things matter more than staying safe or staying out of trouble. A child's life, a mother's hope, a father's second chance to honor a daughter's memory. Those are the things worth stopping traffic for. Those are the things worth 100 engines falling silent for. Those are the miracles that happen when broken people decide their pain can still serve a purpose. The desert wind carried the sound of distant motorcycles across the evening air. Somewhere out there, riders were heading home. And somewhere out there, a little girl was sleeping safe in her own bed, dreaming of the rough strangers who became heroes for a day. That's the story of how 100 motorcyclists blocked a highway to perform a miracle. But really, it's the story of what happens when grief transforms into grace, when loss becomes legacy, when the worst day of your life teaches you how to save someone else's. And maybe that's all justice ever is, broken people fighting to make sure others don't break the same way. The engines fade. The highway opens again. Life continues. But for those who were there that day, something permanent changed. They learned that redemption isn't about forgetting the past. It's about carrying it forward and turning it into something that matters. Emma's smile on the wall. Lily's drawing beside it. 2 girls who'll never meet, connected by 1 man's decision to let tragedy make him better instead of bitter. That's the miracle. That's always been the miracle.